Ladies and gentlemen, let's see. Maybe. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll call the Economic Development and Tourism Committee to order. We have one bill to hear today, House Bill 406, and you have it in front of it. Representative Bazemore, if you will. 490. Did I say 406? 490. LC 481416. And you have the floor, Representative Bazemore.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. Thank you so much for allowing me to present this bill to you. This bill had come about because of human trafficking and sex trafficking in our state. I had called several different meetings in my district because it sits so close to the busiest airport in the world, and several different entities were there. It was police, it was the mayors, and the First Lady. And we discussed how the hotels and motels are turning a blind eye to this enterprise, and they are getting kickbacks. And so I made the suggestion, why don't we penalize them? Because we understand that we get the attention when they are penalized. And I think you all know that, I think it was Red Roofing had been sued for something similar. And because where the busiest airport in the world sits, and we have major sports events here, and that's when we see the uptake in this human trafficking. And so we need to stop it at some point, because it does affect our economy, it affects our everyday life, it affects our children. And so we need to do something so that our children are safe, and that our economy is safe, and that we can live and walk and work without being fearful of this happening. And so as you see, it says that, again, it's relating to kidnapping, false imprisonment, related offenses, and that what it's mandating is that each person that is in the hotel or motel, employed any way, shape, or form, that they have to, excuse me, I'm sorry, they have to take a test, a session that has to be done. Just like we just had to do with sexual harassment. We just had to go through that. And so to make sure they understand, and once you understand, then if you are in violation of this, then we will hold you accountable for not reporting it.
So as I read the bill on line 32, any proprietor, owner, operator, or employee of a hotel who knew or should have known, reasonably known, such premises is being utilized for the purpose of or in connection with trafficking of persons for labor or sexual servitude and in violation of this code section shall, upon conviction, be subject to punishment and imprisonment. And I think all of us agree that sex trafficking is a big problem. So
definitely is. In every county.
The gentleman from Hinesville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, thank you for the bill. It's a very good bill, and the chairman and I live in a heavily military district area. And we had an incident in Hinesville where a room was kept for weeks, and 2 or 3 times a day they would deliver linen. Never went in the room. I'm glad for the chairman pointed out 32, and I read it because I was going to ask that the same requirements that are made of teachers who see abuse. Mandatory that they repeat it, but I think 32 will handle that. But the key is employees. We need to make sure employers let employees know. As a matter of fact, they post signs in their workroom or whatever, because if they don't tell them, they're getting convicted for something they're not guilty
That's
of.
right.
But if they need to let every employee know that this is now the law.
Thank you.
And of course, that's pointing back to C, which is talking about the employees of the hotels. And I think most of us agree with that. All of us should agree with that. Number 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Representative Bazemore.
morning.
The area that I live in and serve is in southwest Atlanta. I am not far from Fulton Industrial Boulevard, which is not in my district, but it's adjacent and an area I know that you're familiar with.
Definitely.
That houses several late-night facilities, trucking, motels, extended stays, etc. And what I have found in complaint from the community is a lot of times there's a collaborative effort between employees of some of these motels, hotels, and the sex rings themselves. And so, slightly to my colleague's point, and to you specifically, is it of your opinion that implementing this would provide an opportunity to let the employees know that cahoots, for lack of a better term, collusion in these rings places this potential punishment before them? I guess my major question is, how do we, besides notice, as Representative Williams said, notify these employees that this is a new rule and this is what is possible for violation of it? Because I think a major part of what you are attacking here, because we got fruit and root issues. The systemic issue is that a lot of times these are inside jobs and inside setups. So thank you for bringing the bill. I believe it's a step in the right direction. I know there's so much more to be done with regard to these issues and truly protecting our children, girls and boys, as a matter of fact. So thank you for bringing the bill. I want to hear from you what you think about the owners of these facilities and a lot of these employees being involved in these rings themselves.
So thank you for that, because that is exactly what's happening. Where my district, it used to be, but it bumps up now against the busiest airport in the world. There are over 30 hotels in College Park alone, 30. And so when I hosted the First Lady down in my district 3 times, and we had that discussion, it was just amazing for the mayors to sit there and give us that information. And I believe that, I think it's important to make sure that people are aware, first of all. You can't find somebody unless they're aware. And so this training will make them aware of their responsibility in reporting. And then the hotel owners and the motel owners will be aware also that they can no longer be in cahoots, as you said, with these sex traffickers. And my concern too, where we sit so close, these individuals, there's like 4 ways off and on to get from the airport to the airport, right at the hotels, get off and on quickly. But let me be clear, it is not just happening in that area. When I sat with the First Lady, she told a story that it's happening in every county. And when she visited one of the counties further south, way down, the mayor told her, oh, it's not happening in our county. This is not happening. And then later on, he had to apologize to her because it was found in that county to be happening. And he came back and apologized to her. So we have a job to do ourselves also to make sure we hold their feet to the fire, and that this is about our children and our future and our economy, and we have to stop this now.
Representative Bazemore, I absolutely agree. As I read this, I see the meat of the bill beginning on line 27, section C, where it's talking about the training.
Yes.
Is there any reason we wouldn't consider moving that up? Instead of 6 months, seems to be a long period of time. That ought to be a primary goal for these folks is to get training immediately.
Not at all, and I would accept any kind of adjustments or anything that would make this clearer and make it sooner.
Representative Jones.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to the author of the bill. This will definitely help the Macon area, as we too have an issue with this. Is it in your opinion that this bill will deter what is called an open air prostitution market, as well as slave labor trade that affects all areas of Georgia, both urban and rural?
Thank you for the question, and you know of which you speak, because it will. This is just the beginning, I believe. This is just the tip of the iceberg for us. We have to make it stronger and harder for this to take place.
Yep. Representative Clark, 27.
Love this bill and all about bringing the hammer down on sex trafficking and protecting those who are being trafficked. So thank you so much. I was just wondering, I'm not an attorney, I was just wondering, so on lines 32, 33, when it says, or should have reasonably known, I don't know if like that should be scratched just because it's kind of vague. Because if they know it, then bring the hammer down. That I'm just wondering a little bit like if they should have reasonably known, if that should be scratched. But I mean, I love the bill and I'm all about educating and bringing the hammer down.
I agree with you. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, who's number 4? Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry. Yes, sir.
I think, thank you, Mr. Chairman, I think you got the answer. 27 to 31, the language should be immediate.
Yes, sir.
Instead of 6 months immediate. A lot of these employees, unfortunately, don't stay 6 months.
Yes.
You know? So immediate.
Point taken, number 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dovetailing off my colleague here, upon employment, I mean, language matters, right? So when you are hired somewhere, there's an onboarding process, an orientation, paperwork that must be filled out, background check, supposedly. Would it be stronger language and more concise to say, upon onboarding or whatever that particular business's orientation process is? There are other paperwork you have to fill out to start your job. You got to provide your ID. You have to do this and have to do that. I think that this would be training that would be better suited immediately upon onboarding, because immediately can be. What does that mean? Immediately upon what? Upon the hire.
The first check.
Right. That part. There we go. That's my suggestion.
So the language that you're proposing,
Just strike that.
within 6 months, immediately?
Just use the word immediate between 27 and 31. Immediate.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if the language needs to be expounded to include every business has, a process of onboarding and orientation. Should it be a part of the employment package? Is what I'm
The only
saying.
problem with the employment package, excuse me.
For discussion. Through your mic.
The only problem with that is, and I live in an area, you'd be surprised that sometimes there's not an employment package. Here's what we pay a week, come on in. You see, you'll leave a loophole there.
Okay.
If you say immediate takes care of, because there's some very informal employment in this business, very informal.
Okay.
Representative Persinger.
Thank you, Chairman. I think just prior to reporting to duty is the best way to do that. So whether there's onboarding or not, before the first day you report to work, you've got to complete that training.
Is there anyone, as we're moving on, that has any heartburn with lines 32 through 35, where an owner may not even be in the state, that may own and operate a hotel? And that's just tossing out for conversation. Number 16.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. I like this bill. I think it's a good thing. We have this strip in Columbus called Victory Drive, and it's a challenging area. You say you know it, Representative Williams?
Did basic training.
Okay. So
I'm
I
glad
don't want
that's
to know
the
what
only
basic
reason
training that
why.
was.
Yes.
We are streaming
Clarify
live,
that.
ladies and gentlemen. That's
We talking
online.
about military training, right?
We are online.
But Mr. Chairman, I want to say first of all how much I appreciate the discussion that we're having here today. This is the way I think that the lawmaking process should happen. Share ideas with each other. I do want to touch on the word immediately, though. I think that may leave things up to discretion, because when you say immediately the one person is going to be different than the other person. Now, we can sit here and say, well, immediately is immediately, but what is immediately? So I think in these type instances, we have to put some type of time frame. And if we want to cut it down, I agree 6 months is too long. But I do think we need to put some measurable time frame in there so that we can have some type of definite deadline. Whether I think 1 month is reasonable and immediately, because we don't know the employment onboarding process. I have seen various jobs where basic employee training can be a month, especially if you're going into a technical environment like some of our call centers or medical facilities where, now if you're talking about doing this in the midst of HR paperwork signing, I don't know if that's a training environment, because we don't want just an acknowledgement that I've been told. I want them to understand the potential penalties. So I think this needs to be in an environment where other considerable information is being taken in at that time. And when we begin to be a little bit too specific, especially at this stage, we may run into complications on how it's going to apply amongst, the hundreds of thousands of employers that we have here in Georgia.
Just a point of clarification, and we've got some attorneys down here to my left, but would the term orientation be immediately enough? Because every new employee goes through an orientation process to do their job.
I like his suggestion, because what he said, excuse me.
Gentleman, number 4, use your mic.
But to the gentleman, your recommendation covers it. I hope we understand that there is a small percentage that create a great percentage of the problems. These are easy in and out places. You're not checking in to the Embassy Suite or the Westin. Yeah, that's a whole new ball game. But I think your language, if you don't mind, sir, Mr. Chairman, would you let him repeat what he said? I think it's right on.
Yes, sir. Please.
So just very simply, prior to reporting for duty.
That's it. Before you go
That way, whether if you have onboarding orientation or not, before you clock in day one, you have to complete this training.
I would second that amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Whenever that comes about. Yes, sir. Hearing only today. Representative Jones.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I want to make sure that we don't forget about current employees and making sure that they get the training as well.
I appreciate that comment, because we do have current, so the way this reads, it may just appear that we're talking about employees for the future. Yeah.
Good point.
Let's see. There we go. Number 6 again.
Yeah, one last.
Yes, sir.
Number 6.
Go ahead. Number 16. There we go.
Oh, 60. Okay. And one last thing, Mr. Chairman, I was speaking down here with the brilliant legal mind of Representative Ann Allen Westbrook, and we both recognize that in line 32, I think there were some questions earlier about the language "who knew or should have reasonably known." Just want to caution that may be a legal standard. Sometimes we utilize that language from a legal standard perspective, so I wouldn't want us deviating from wordage that's repeated throughout the entire code of Georgia because it has a particular meaning. So I would just check with that, Representative Basemore, before we change that. I know it was a concern down here. I think it was my good brother David Clark that mentioned this, but just check it out. And if it's not used in a legal standard form, I don't have a problem with what he said.
May I make a suggestion? We have ledge counsel back there. Can we ask?
to your point, 16546, the code section that's referenced in subsection D, uses the term knowingly to define its crimes. So to keep, if you want to keep subsection D kind of the same as 16546, removing the should have known would be consistent with that.
Thank
Number
you.
15.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would come down on the side of keeping it who knew or should have reasonably known. That's sort of like a constructive knowledge kind of thing that does appear in a lot of different contexts, like premises liability. And I think in this factual scenario, where you do have, as Rep. Williams pointed out, you do have situations where employees are being told, take linens there, but don't go in the room. When they do eventually go in the room, there is, there's evidence of what's going on in the room. And so I think leaving it that constructive knowledge who knew or should have reasonably known prevents us from having a situation where they're like, well, I don't understand. I didn't know, yes, there were 20 used condoms in the room, but no, I had no idea what was going on. And I think that's what I like, the teeth that reasonably should have known gives this bill. And I agree. I think it's a great bill.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is being our first hearing today. What I would task the committee to do is to take a look at lines 32 through 35 as we come back Monday. I think we've got a real good idea of where we need to go on Section C. But if we could wordsmith so that we don't inadvertently catch somebody that could really be harmed by this stuff that really had no idea what was going on if they were an owner. But again, as we move towards Monday, I hope you guys will consider who's number 12. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share a little bit of concern also with that language, should have known, because maybe in your example that you gave, the mayor maybe should have known what was going on in his community. So he, by that standard, he could be caught up in that also. But I understand your intent, and I think I really like the bill, and I think it's a very, very positive bill, but I do have concern with that should have known, especially by an owner that maybe lives somewhere else or in another state or something like that.
Would you like to have any final words today, or would want to wait until Monday morning?
No, I believe right now, first of all, I appreciate all the input and the changes, the necessary changes. And so I will definitely get with Ledge Council to make sure these issues are addressed, and then come back on Monday morning and get this bill passed through.
And and again, we've got plenty of time, but I just, again, charge this committee. I believe, for me as chair, I believe that the lines 27 through 31 is the meat of the bill, that we get folks trained, and that we look at 32 through 35 to make sure that we don't inadvertently harm some folks. But every single person needs to be trained, and I think every person on this committee agrees with that. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for rules, and we are adjourned. We'll see you first of next week.